Hi, my name is Scott Speck. I'm a music director and conductor. I work here at the Mobile Symphony. These are the Mobile Symphony offices. I'm also music director of the West Michigan Symphony and the Joffrey Ballet in Chicago. On a typical day, I'll get up and answer emails for a couple of hours because a large part of a conductor's job is administrative in the music director capacity. So I'll answer emails, then I might go out to lunch with a donor, might have a meeting at the office, and then in the evening, typically I'll have either a rehearsal or a concert. So my day is pretty full from beginning to end. As a conductor, my role is to provide a unified musical vision for the orchestra. That means all the musicians in a professional orchestra, they can all play their instruments and they can all play their parts, and each one of them probably has a different idea of how the music should go. The conductor's job is to direct them all in the same direction so it feels like one person expressing themselves musically. In order to do this, of course, I have to know the score really, really well. And a huge part of any conductor's job is studying. In fact, for about 1 minute's worth of music, typically I would have to study for 1 hour. So that is 60 hours of study for a 1 hour piece of music. It's a huge job, and that's all behind the scenes. As the music director of an organization, my job is to create an overarching vision, not just for a piece of music, but the vision that the entire organization is supposed to follow, wants to follow. That involves a lot of collaboration, and a huge part of a music director's job is kind of political. You have to know all the different constituencies, you have to know your community well, and you have to be able to collaborate and also to convince people that your vision is the one that they would like to follow. Now, don't forget, to be a music director and a conductor, you have to be a community leader, and you also have to be sort of seen as first among equals. What that means is that your musical ideas have to be, if not infallible, at least respectable. And so the musicians in a professional orchestra, who are all excellent and have been practicing their music since childhood, would respond best to a music director who also has that experience. It's like the captain of a ship who's also been first mate and also has had every other job on the ship. So in my case, I started studying piano at the age of 6, and I think it's really important to be able to play an instrument in a way that you can make a musical expression, that you're at least able to express yourself musically. Then I studied music in college. I got a bachelor's degree and also a master's degree. My master's degree was in instrumental conducting. That's not absolutely required to be a conductor, but there are a lot of jobs that say they require a master's degree or equivalent in order to be their conductor and to even be taken seriously in the application process. I will say, though, ironically, that a doctorate doesn't help. To be a music director or a conductor, if you have a doctorate, you're seen as more someone who wants to go into the academic side rather than someone who wants to practice it out in the real world. So I know some conductors who have doctorate degrees that don't advertise it at all. In fact, they see it more as a liability than as an asset. So if you're interested in doing this, you should definitely practice an instrument really, really hard until you're really good at it, until you feel you could give a recital on that instrument, and perhaps give lots of recitals. I'd recommend getting a bachelor's degree in music, perhaps in instrumental performance, but also learning about all different aspects of culture, because they all show up in classical music. So you need to learn about art and literature and so on. Also, within music, you need to learn composition, orchestration, instrumentation. You need to learn how all the different instruments of the orchestra work. And if possible, you should, in the course of getting your degree, put together as many groups as you can and conduct and conduct and conduct. It's also great to go to summer festivals, and there are lots of summer festivals available for conductors in which you have a chance to hone your craft in front of an audience that is friendly and supportive and hopefully will make you get better at what you do. Now, having said all that, there are people who become conductors who haven't studied for a degree in music at all, but maybe they just had music in their families growing up, or maybe they're extraordinarily talented. There are people who have degrees who work toward being a conductor but never actually are able to make it professionally. The fact is, conducting is a pathless landscape. Although you need to be as prepared as any doctor or lawyer would have to be, and although it requires actually more years of your life to get to that level, that in itself is not a guaranteed path toward a particular job. The best and worst parts of the job. Well, I think there are some conductors out there who would say the best part of the job is the moment when you get that adulation from the crowd, because of course you're performing in front of thousands of people and you're making a lot of people happy. And granted, that is an incredible feeling. But I have to say, it's really important if you're going to be a conductor that you not go in it for that reason. The reason to be a conductor is because you're a musician, you have something you want to say, and maybe you've played in groups and you have wanted to direct those groups and take it to the next level by having a large group of people perform in a way that expresses your musical idea. So for me, the best part of the job is when we get this transcendent musical moment that just changes everyone's life and moves them in a way that they might not even express with clapping and adulation, but somehow changes their life. The worst parts of the job, sometimes I have to really force myself to get up and sit down and study and study and study. When, as I said, a minute's worth of music takes an hour's worth of study. That's a long time. And there are hours and hours and hours of isolation as a conductor. It is, despite what people might think about it being a very public profession, it's actually a very private one. I would say 90% of your time, if you're a good conductor, is spent alone studying the scores. But really, for me, the worst part of the job as music director is if I ever have to let a musician go, because musicians are precious. They're all trying their hardest, and sometimes it sometimes happens, seldom, but sometimes happens, that a musician is not up to the musical standards, and after repeated tries, we're not able to get them to accomplish what they need to. So hiring and firing is part of the job, and the firing part is not the most fun. Along with that, I should mention that conductors themselves have very little job security. And so, if a conductor loses his job, I suppose that could be the worst part. I have to be honest, making a career as a conductor with professional orchestras in today's environment successfully is like winning the lottery. I don't recommend it. I would not, in good conscience, tell anyone to go into being a conductor. I'm extraordinarily lucky in that I'm music director of 3 or 4 different organizations. Notice they're in different states, so I've had to cobble together a career in this way. I know of at least 50 conductors who are better than me, who are out of work. Every time I have applied for a job and gotten one, there have been 300 other people who've been rejected. And that's in the best of circumstances, because orchestras all across the country are facing very hard times. Almost every orchestra is in financial trouble of some kind or other right now. They might not be on the verge of bankruptcy, but maybe they have a little deficit. It's never been as difficult as it is now to be an orchestra conductor. And so therefore, if you're going to be one, you have to feel so strongly about it that you don't care what I say. It has to be the only thing you could ever imagine doing in your life. Then you could be a conductor. Otherwise, there are so many other ways to make a living that will make you happier. So this may be surprising advice coming from me, a successful conductor. But asking me what it's like to be a conductor is like asking a lottery winner what it's like to play the lottery, or asking George Clooney what it's like to go on an audition. I'm one of the lucky ones. Good luck.